Hare Krishna. So, we welcome you all to this reading session on Krishna book, chapter number 24 and 25. So, today we will be partially reading chapter number 25, 24, and tomorrow we will be reading the next part of chapter number 24 and chapter number 25. So, let's begin this discussion with this wonderful prayer from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Krishna, 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 Krishna. Krishna, Krishna, Krishna He. Krishna, 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 Krishna. Krishna, Krishna, Krishna He. Krishna, 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 Rakshama. Krishna, 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 Pahi Mam. Ram Raghav, Ram Raghav, Ram Raghav Rakshama. Krishna Keshav, Krishna Keshav, Krishna Keshav, Pahi Mam. The Pranam Mantra of Srila Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnupadaya, Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale, Srimate Bhakti Vedanta, Swamin Iti Namine, Namaste Saraswate Deve, Gauravani Pracharine, Nirvishesha Shunyavadi, Paschatya Desha Tarine. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So kindly forgive me. I'm not keeping little good health because the weather is changing. So I'm really sorry. My throat is not good, but I'll still try to serve you in the best capacity that I can. So this chapter is entitled "Worshipping the Govardhan Hill." While engaged with the Brahmanas, so in the previous chapter we had learned about the Yagik or the Brahmanas who were performing the sacrificial performances, and they could not approach Krishna be- because they were afraid of Kamsa. So while engaged with the Brahmanas who were too much involved in the performance of the Vedic sacrifices, Krishna and Balaram also saw that the cowherd men were preparing a similar sacrifice in order to pacify Indra, the king of heaven, who is responsible for supplying water. As stated in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, a devotee of Krishna has strong and firm faith in the understanding that if he's simply engaged in Krishna consciousness and Krishna's transcendental loving service, then he is freed from all other obligations. A pure devotee of Lord Krishna doesn't have to perform any of the ritualistic functions enjoined in the Vedas, nor is he required to worship any demigods. Being a devotee of Lord Krishna, one is understood to have performed all kinds of Vedic rituals and all kinds of worship to the demigods. One does not develop devotional service for Krishna by performing the Vedic ritualistic ceremonies or worshipping the demigods, but it should be understood that one who is engaged fully in the service of the Lord has already fulfilled all Vedic injunctions. So, this is a very important statement which is being made over here. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita says that जीव कृष्ण दास ए विश्वास कर ले तो आर दुख नाई. That if a person, if the jiva, that is the baddha jiva who is present in this material world, when he agrees or when he understands that simply by engaging in Krishna consciousness that he's das of Krishna, he's a servant of Krishna, and he renders devotional service unto the Lord, then there is no ara dukhanai, then there is no other obligation, then there is no other misery. So we can see here that Srila Prabhupada is explaining very explicitly that those who are engaged in devotional service, they should uh, they should not be worried about worship of demigods or performances of other Vedic ritualistic ceremonies, right? The because the service of Lord Krishna is so glorious that all these obligations are removed for that person, right? It is all inclusive. So now Lord Krishna is saw that his all the inhabitants of Vrindavan, they are going to conduct this ceremony, a similar Vedic sacrifice for whom? For Indra, who is the king of heaven. So now let's see what happens ahead. In order to stop all such activities by his devotees, Krishna wanted to firmly establish exclusive devotional service during his presence in Vrindavan. Because he is the because he is the omniscient personality of Godhead, Krishna knew that the cowherd men were preparing for the Indra sacrifice. But as a matter of etiquette, he began to inquire with great honor and submission from elder personalities like Maharaj Nanda. So Lord knew that this is the sacrifice for Indra, but still, out of etiquette, he asked. Krishna asked his father, "My dear father, what is this arrangement going on for a great sacrifice? What is the result of such a sacrifice, and for whom is it meant? How is it performed? Will you kindly let me know? I am very eager to know this procedure. So please explain to me the purpose of this sacrifice." Upon this inquiry, his father Nanda Maharaj remained silent, thinking that his young boy would not be able to understand the intricacies of performing the yajna. Krishna, however, persisted, "My dear father, for those who are liberal and saintly, there is no secrecy. They do not think anyone to be a friend, an enemy, or a neutral party, because they are always open to everyone. And even for those who are not so liberal, nothing should be kept secret from the family members and friends, although secrecy may be maintained for persons who are inimical." So Lord Krishna now, he's a young boy. Apparently, for Nanda Maharaj, he is in Vatsalya Ras, so he does not feel that this is a small. He's a small child. How are we able to understand? But Nanda Maharaj therefore did not answer. He remained silent that the small boy might not be able to understand. Right? Lord Krishna asked with great submission to his father that why all this sacrifice is being conducted. So now he's telling important principle that those who are liberal, they don't keep secrets, right? And we should not keep secrets from family members, but yeah, we can keep secrets from people who are inimical. Therefore, you cannot keep any secrets from me. All persons are engaged in fruitive activities. Some know what these activities are and they know the result, and some execute activities without knowing the purpose or the result. A person who acts with full knowledge gets the full result. One who acts without knowledge does not get such a perfect result. Therefore, please let me know the purpose of the sacrifice you are going to perform. Is it according to Vedic injunction, or is it simply a popular ceremony? Kindly let me know in detail about the sacrifice. So now, Lord Krishna is pursuing his father that at least tell me what is the purpose, why you are performing this sacrifice. Is it properly a part of a Vedic injunction? Is it sanctioned in the Vedas? Or it's just a ceremony that it's a popular ceremony. So please just let me know that what is the purpose, why we are doing all this. On hearing this inquiry from Krishna, Maharaj Nanda replied, "My dear boy, this ceremonial performance is more or less traditional. Because rainfall is due to the mercy of King Indra and the clouds are his representatives, and because water is so important for our living, we must show some gratitude to the controller of this rainfall, Maharaj Indra. We are arranging, therefore, to pacify King Indra, because he has very kindly sent us clouds to pour down a sufficient quantity of rain for successful agricultural activities. Water is very important. Without rainfall, we cannot farm or produce grain, and without grain, we cannot live. Therefore, rain is necessary for successful religious ceremonies, economic development, and ultimately liberation. So, we should not give up this traditional ceremonial function. If one gives it up, being influenced by lust, greed, or fear, then it does not look very good for him. So now Nand Maharaj gave an explanation to Krishna because he was asking over and over. So he told that ki we are doing this ceremony because we are expressing our gratitude to the controller of rainfall, that is Indra. And why? Because he sends us clouds which provide us rain, and it is a cycle that proceeds ahead. Our agriculture is completely dependent upon rain, and if we do not get rain, then we do not get any grains, right? So therefore, rain is very important for our survival. So therefore, Anand Maharaj explained that this is a ceremony which is primarily traditional, but yes, we are expressing our gratitude and we should not give it up. After hearing this, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in the presence of his father and all the elder cowherd men of Vrindavan, spoke in such a way to make the heavenly king Indra very angry. So now, Lord Krishna, he wanted to make Indra angry. He suggested that they forego the sacrifice. His reasons for discouraging the sacrifice performed to please Indra were twofold. So there were two reasons why Lord Krishna suggested that you should not do this sacrifice. First, as stated in the Bhagavad Gita, there is no need to worship the demigods for any material advancement. All results derived from worshipping the demigods are simply temporary, and only those who are less intelligent are interested in temporary results. Second, whatever temporary result one derives from worshipping the demigods is actually granted by the permission of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, two reasons. What is the first? That whatever result they will give, it is temporary. An intelligent person does not want to invest in temporary results, right? And the second one, demigods are not completely independent. They whatever they will award will be by the permission of the Supreme Lord. So it is clearly stated in the Bhagavad Gita, my ev vihitan hitan. Whatever benefit is supposed to be derived from the demigods is actually bestowed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Without the permission of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one cannot bestow any benefit upon others. But sometimes the demigods become puffed up by the influence of material nature, thinking themselves all in all, they forget the supremacy of the personality of Godhead. In Srimad Bhagavatam, it is clearly stated that in this instance, Krishna wanted to make King Indra angry. Krishna's advent was especially meant for the annihilation of the demons and protection of the devotees. King Indra was certainly a devotee, not a demon. But because he was puffed up means he had a lot of ego, Krishna wanted to teach him a lesson. He first made Indra angry by stopping the Indra Puja, which had been arranged by the cowherd men in Vrindavan. So till now, what we have seen is that Lord Krishna was determined to break the ego of Indra because although demigods are devotees, any person we had all also studied in chapter number 3 that and chapter number 2 as well, that what is the meaning of a demigod. So anybody who lives and abides by the instructions of the Supreme Lord is actually a demigod. But Lord Krishna, because he's the well-wisher of all living entities, so he wanted that the demigod Indra, he was very puffed up, or he was feeling he had his ego had inflated a lot. So Lord Krishna wanted to teach him a lesson, and therefore he deliberately incited him, made him angry by stopping this whole puja which was being organized for him. With this purpose in mind, Krishna began to talk as if he were an atheist supporting the philosophy of karma mimamsa. Advocates of this philosophy do not accept the supreme authority of the personality of Godhead. They put forward the argument that if anyone works nicely, the result is sure to come. So now Krishna is explaining about this philosophy which is called the Karma Mimamsa philosophy. What does this philosophy say? It does not accept the the authority of the Supreme Lord. It simply says that if somebody works nicely, then he's bound to get result, right? There's no doubt about it. He has to get the result, right? So let's see what Lord Krishna says. They put for the people who actually follow this karma mimamsa, they put forward the argument that if anyone works nicely, the result is sure to come. Their opinion is that even if there is a god who gives man the result of his fruitive activities, there is no need to worship him, because unless man works, he cannot bestow any good result, right? So it seems to be a very valid point that if I don't work, then what even God can do? Even if there is a God, he cannot give me any result unless I work. They say that instead of worshipping a demigod or God, people should give attention to their own duties, and thus the good result will surely come. So many people, if we often see them, karma hi puja hai. That's what the slogan is. That do your duties well. What's the point in worshipping God? So Lord Krishna began to speak to his father according to these principles of karma mimamsa philosophy. So, so it is an atheistic philosophy. He said, "My dear father," he said, "I don't think you need to worship any demigod for the successful performance of your agricultural activities. Every living being is born according to his past karma and leaves his this life simply taking the result of his present karma. Everyone is born in different types of species of life, every different types or species of life according to his past activities, and he gets his next birth according to the activities of this life. Different grades of material happiness and distress, comforts and disadvantages of life are different results of different kinds of activities from either the past or present life." So Lord Krishna is giving an argument that whatever we do in this life decides the next, and whatever we are seeing today is because by the virtue of what we have done before. Maharaj Nanda and other elder members argued that without satisfying the predominating god, one cannot derive any good result simply by material activities. So now there is a counter question कि if you do not worship or do not satisfy the predominating deity or the god, so in this case it is the god of rain, so one cannot derive any good result simply by doing material activities. This is actually the fact. Sometimes, for example, it is sometimes found that in spite of first class medical help and treatment by a first class physician, a diseased person dies. It is concluded, therefore, that first class medical treatment or the attempts of a first class physician means doctor, are not in themselves the cause for curing a patient. There must be the hand of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Similarly, fathers and mothers taking care of the children is not the cause of children's comfort. Sometimes it is found that, in spite of all care by the parents, the children go bad or succumb to death. Therefore, material causes are not sufficient for results. There must be the sanction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, it's a very valid point that Srila Prabhupada is making and explaining that why Karma Mimamsa philosophy is not correct. So, despite that, somebody, Prabhupada give two examples. First, that if somebody has the best in class of doctors, medical help, but we see that there are so many rich people in this world, but despite having everything at their disposal, they could not survive, right? Because the sanction of the Supreme Lord is required. The second example Srila Prabhupada gives is about father and mother, that they may try their level best to take care of the children, but many a times children go astray and go in the wrong direction. So, therefore, material causes are not sufficient for results, and there must be a sanction by the Supreme Lord. Nand Maharaj therefore advocated that in order to get good results for agricultural activities, they must satisfy Indra, the superintending deity of the rain supply. Lord Krishna nullified this argument, saying that the demigods give results only to persons who have executed their prescribed duties. The demigods cannot give any good results to the person who has not executed the prescribed duties. Therefore, demigods are dependent on the execution of duties and are not absolute in awarding good results to anyone. So, why should one care about them? So now Lord Krishna is giving all counter arguments, right? So he just wants to poke Indra by stopping this yajna. So what he's saying that if I do not do any activity, then what even the demigod will do? He cannot give me unless I do the activity, he will not be able to award me any result. So therefore, this is he's giving this argument. So Lord Krishna is further saying, "My dear father," Lord Krishna said, "there is no need to worship the demigod Indra. Everyone has to achieve the result of his own work. We can actually see that one becomes busy according to the natural tendency of his work, and according to that natural tendency, all living entities, whether human beings or demigods, achieve their respective results. All living entities achieve higher or lower bodies and create enemies, friends, or neutral parties only because of their different kinds of work. One should be careful to discharge duties according to his natural instinct and not divert attention to the worship of various demigods. The demigods will be satisfied by proper execution of all duties, so there is no need to worship them. Let us rather perform our prescribed duties very nicely. Actually, one cannot be happy without executing his proper prescribed duty. One who does not therefore properly discharge his prescribed duty is compared to an unchaste wife. The proper prescribed duty of the Brahmanas is to study the Vedas. The proper duty of the royal order, the Kshatriyas, is engagement in protecting the citizens. The proper duty of the Vaishya community is agriculture, trade, and protection of the cows. And the proper duty of the Shudras is service to the higher classes, namely the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas. We belong to the Vaishya community, and our proper duty is to farm, to trade with the agricultural produce, to protect cows, or to take to banking. So now Lord Krishna, he's further enhancing the discussion in this direction again and again, that there is no need to bother about the demigods. If you do your duties well, they are bound to give you result, right? And let's just not, if we do our, let's just what to do, perform our prescribed duties well, right? So what are the prescribed duties? Now it has been discussed that if whatever varna you are in, as per your natural tendency of work, you are going to get their respective results. So if you are a brahmana, then you should read the Vedas. If you are if you are kshatriya, then you protect the other citizens. Then if you're a Vaishya, then you do trading, banking, and protect the cows. And if you're Shudras, then you serve the all of the other three classes. So now, if these guys, if this one, if one does his duty quite well, then there is nothing to worry. Why to bother about the demigods? Krishna identified himself with the Vaishya community because Nanda Maharaj was protecting many cows and Krishna was taking care of them. He enumerated four kinds of business engagements for the Vaishya community, namely agriculture, trade, protection of cows, and banking. So, four activities for Vaishya community. Although the Vaishyas can take to any of these occupations, the men of Vrindavan were engaged primarily in the protection of cows. Krishna further explained to his father, this cosmic manifestation is going under the influence of three modes of material nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. These three modes are the causes of creation, maintenance, and destruction. The cloud is caused by the action of the mode of passion. Therefore, it is the mode of passion which causes the rainfall. And after the rainfall, the living entities derive the results, that is success in agricultural work. What then has Indra has to do with this affair? Even if you do not please Indra, what can he do? We do not derive any special benefit from Indra. Even if he is there, he pours water on the ocean also, where there is no need of water. So he is pouring water on the ocean or on the land. It does not depend upon our worshipping him. So Lord Krishna is giving another argument. Given there are three modes, and the mode of passion is the clouds are formed because of the mode of passion. So in the rainfall is happening on land also, and it's happening on the ocean also. And ocean is not doing anything. He is not worshipping Indra. So when he is getting rainfall, so why should we bother about Indra? Right? It does not depend. There is no point in worshipping Indra. As far as we are concerned, we do not need to go to another city or village or foreign country. There are palatial buildings in the cities, but we are satisfied living in this forest of Vrindavan. Our specific relationship is with Govardhan Hill and Vrindavan forest and nothing more. So now Lord Krishna came to the point what he wanted. So what he wanted was, sorry for the interruption. So what Lord Krishna is saying, that I we don't need palatial buildings like in Mathura. There is such a developed city. We live in forest, and what is our relationship with Govardhan Hill and Vrindavan forest? I therefore request you, my dear father, to begin a sacrifice which will satisfy the local Brahmanas and Govardhan Hill. And let us have nothing to do with Indra. After hearing the statement of Krishna by Krishna, Nand Maharaj replied, my dear boy, since you are asking, I shall arrange for a separate sacrifice for the local Brahmanas and Govardhan Hill. But for the present, let me execute this sacrifice known as Indra Yagya. So Nand Maharaj said ki no issue. If you are saying, and I will do it. We will arrange a separate sacrifice for Govardhan Hill and for the Brahmanas, and no need, don't worry, we'll conduct another sacrifice. But for now, at least allow me to do this one. But Krishna replied, my dear father, don't delay. The sacrifice you propose for Govardhan and local Brahmanas will take much time. Better take the arrangement and paraphernalia you have already made for Indra Yagya and immediately engage them to satisfy Govardhan Hill and the local Brahmanas. So Lord Krishna said that don't wait, it will take time. So now everything is set, everything is ready. So use them for satisfying Govardhan Hill. Maharaj Nanda finally relented. The cowherd men then inquired from Krishna how he wanted the yajna performed, and Krishna gave them the following directions. Prepare very nice foods for all description from the grain and ghee collected from the yajna. So you have collected ghee and grains for the yajna. Now make nice foodstuffs out of that. What? Prepare rice, dal, halwa, pakoda, puri, and all kinds of milk preparations such as sweet rice, that's kheer, rabdi, sweet balls, sandesh, rasagulla, laddu, and invite the learned brahmanas who can chant the Vedic hymns and offer oblations to the fire. The brahmanas should be given all kinds of grain in charity, then decorate all the cows and feed them well. So Lord Krishna is called Go Brahman Hitayecha, that he is deeply uh, in love with the Gau and the Brahmanas. The Brahmanas are very dear to him, and the cows are very dear to him. So he said specifically that give charity to the Brahmanas and then decorate the cows, feed them. After performing this, give money in charity to the Brahmanas. As far as the lower animals are concerned, such as dogs and the lower grades of people, such as the Chandalas or the fifth class of men who are considered untouchable, they may also be given sumptuous prasadam. After nice grasses have been given to the cows, the sacrifice known as Govardhan Puja may immediately begin. So, first you have to do all these things, and then you can start the sacrifice known as Govardhan Puja. So, before Govardhan Puja, we do Go Puja. and then Govardhan Puja starts. So this sacrifice will very much satisfy me. So Lord Krishna very explicitly told his elderly men as well as Nand Maharaj that he will be pleased only when such a thing is done. And they were so much in deep love with Krishna that they did not want to displease him. He said that whatever you have arranged, now do it. So we will see further. Tomorrow we will be reading the remaining part of this chapter and the next chapter. So we thank you very much for your kind attention for today. So श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, निताई गौर प्रेमानंदे, हरि हरि बोल.